Hey everybody, I'm just somebody like you. I'm your stand-up comic for the day. Oh, I'm sorry, that's my next date. I'm just somebody like you. The name states it exactly, and couldn't be more perfect for this group of people because, bless you, I've sat in the exact chairs you do with the exact company. I worked at Altec back in 2008 to about 2012. So I have a very, we'll say, well-rounded and good understanding of a lot of the struggles you guys go through on a day-to-day, but that's not saying that I know all of them. But from a mental health standpoint, what I can relate to is, I'm sure there's a little bit of compassion fatigue that goes on. There's a little bit of feeling obligated to help, even when we're feeling burnout. A lot of stress, and from what I've been told, there's been a little bit of a merger going on, so a lot of confusion, a lot of changing things, and a lot of just change in general, which adapting to change is very uncomfortable, especially when you've been used to doing things for, I don't know, however many years you've been here. Adapting to that change is very difficult. So, to tell you a little bit about me before we jump into that, I want you to know that my story started in 3rd grade. Now, I'm not going to walk you through 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, and all the way up till age 36. But 3rd grade, I knew I wanted to help people when I walked into a lunchroom in Walton Farm Elementary School in Hatfield, Lansdale, Pennsylvania. I sat myself over at the special education table because I saw that somebody needed help eating. I knew no better. I didn't know that I was supposed to be sitting at another table. I didn't know I was supposed to be with the class. I just saw somebody needed help. So that's what I did. In 3rd grade, I knew what I wanted to do. Did I think I'd be up here standing in front of 40 to 50 people talking about my 3rd grade self? No, but I think he's pretty proud of that. And from there on, life starts, right? I got bullied throughout Catholic school. I went to Corpus Christi. All of the things happened. Bullying happens, life happens. But it became who I am. All those life circumstances drove me to become the person I am today and drove me ultimately to Altec. I chose Altec for one reason, because I knew I wanted to help people. And where better to help people than Altec? You see the people walk in every day, coming off the bus at, 8:15, 8:20. You know to the minute when that person's going to be walking into your room. Well, I know at least in the Colmar situation, I've been at Colmar. So you know. And I think what I want to relay here is, you're there to help. I think you know that, but that can get lost in the day-to-day, the stresses, the burnout. And what I hope we can talk about today, and I want this to be a free-flowing conversation. If you have a question, if you have an experience, I want to talk. There's no way you want to sit up here and listen or look at me for 2 hours and not say a darn word. So if it relates to you, raise your hand. If you have a question, I'm here to answer. We'll be taking a break at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock to go to the bathroom and stuff like that. So, but I want this to be free-flowing. Because what I have on my handy-dandy notebook here is a couple of things that not only helped me, but drove me to become who I am and what I'm doing here today. Like I said, through bullying through elementary school, through being diagnosed with a severe panic disorder, anxiety, social anxiety, agoraphobia, I wasn't able to leave an apartment in this wonderful state of Florida for a year. I wasn't able to do it. Now, did 2020 maybe have something to do with that? Who knows? But apparently 2020 didn't happen down in Florida, so I can't blame it on that. But what I can say is that the panic and the anxiety were very real, and they absolutely did happen. So by a show of hands, whether you experience it or know someone who does, do you have an experience with anxiety in general? I didn't think it was going to be everybody, but, but I'm actually, the name says it all. I'm just somebody like all of you. And I want to talk about what not only helps me and has continued to help me, but also understand that anxiety just doesn't go away. Anxiety doesn't just dissipate and never come back. It's not like something you just cure once and for all. So that's what you're hoping for, and you thought you were going to get a magic pill out of me. It's not happening. But we have a couple of things that do work. And now, working in the profession you do, I'm going to continue to use the word compassion because it's a heartfelt job. It's a world of empathy, a world of constant giving, and I'm willing to venture in a world where I don't like to assume that you give much more than you receive. Is that fair to say? 8 to 9 hours a day, you are giving. 7. 7 hours a day, you are giving. Everyone else is just working overtime and not getting paid for it. But no. So understanding when you're giving that much of your energy to everybody and everything else, you probably go home and you just want to disassociate. You don't want to talk to anybody. Whether you're going home to family, going home to whatever situation you're in, Netflix might come on, scrolling aimlessly on the phone might go on, whatever you can do just to disassociate from the day. And what I've noticed is how sad. You just spent an entire day changing lives. I don't know if you often get the time to sit and reflect on the impact in it and the work that you do, but you are changing lives for the better. It just kind of like, this could be bad to associate, it's like adopting an animal, right? Without you, you don't know where these people and what these people would be doing, where they would be. But you provide a safe place, an inclusive place, and even when you're not feeling your best, you give 110% to these people, right? And then you feel like when you go home, you have to disassociate. And that's what we want to change. We want to change that feeling of having to go home and forget about all the amazing work we did because we have nothing left. And then you go home, repeat, start the next day. Well, what can we do? So we stop at, we would stop at, we'll get home at 4 or leave at 4? Is that about the time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Leave at 4, and then 5, 6, 7 hours, you're at home. Well, if we get caught on Netflix, if we get caught doing all that stuff, that takes us right to about 8, 8:30. Make some dinner, which I'm probably assuming not all of us choose the healthiest of fuel for our body once we get home, because that's the last thing we want to think about, is how can we make ourselves good food after I just spent 7 hours giving everything I have to everybody else. Well, I know all too well. I was talking to wonderful Jean here before I jumped up here, and I was talking, you guys have much more strength than I did. I left. I couldn't take it. I broke. And I worked there for 4 summers and then 1 full year. So like I said, I know Jean's been there for 14. I didn't have the pleasure of speaking to everyone and getting everyone's timeline, but that is a long time. And I think of this too. How many days have you gone home and disassociated? How much time have we lost because we wanted to just be in our own little cocoon, our own little bubble? That's okay from time to time. Remember, not everything's perfect. We go back to the world of anxiety. All the things we'd love to do when we get home, that we might, now some probably have kids, some have obligations, some have things to do, but I'm going to encourage you, I'm going to try to help you with a way to take time for yourself. And this isn't going to be like, hey, I got an hour at the gym. I got 2 hours to start working on my garden at home. I'm a 3-hour painting. No. We want to start off, I want you to just I encourage you to become aware of what you're doing when you're at home. When you get home, when you allow yourself that 15 minutes to disassociate, absolutely, you need that. We're not saying that it's bad, but let's set the intention, whether it's setting a timer on your phone, whether it's setting a reminder. Everything's going to be phone related. I don't know how many people actually use alarm clocks or anything like that anymore, but stopwatch. But we can be intentional with our time. So get home, say like, all right, I'm going to get home, 15 minutes. This day I'm in a holy place, so this day was crap. Keep pushing me, it might happen. No, so when you're intentional with that time, I'm going to let you know what happens. You're allowing your mind to set a boundary. I'm allowing myself free flow, and this is going to help with your anxiety. I'm allowing myself to be anxious, allowing myself to disassociate, allowing myself to scroll my phone. I'm allowed to do this, because a lot of times what we get caught up doing is feeling guilty about doing it, and then we do it longer. And then we do it longer, and we just feel so much worse about ourselves. And remember what you just did all day. You helped people. And now you feel like crap about yourself because you spent a half an hour scrolling on a phone, because now you're judging yourself. I should be doing more. I should be feeling better. And it comes back to the compassion. understand that you're running on fumes and probably have been for so long. You come in, you show up, I'm going to venture to say it again, you put on a mask. You know what you're supposed to look like. You know how you're supposed to act, so how you're supposed to help. And then you have your half hour for lunch, I'm assuming, I think it's a half an hour, and disassociate. Come back, mask back on. What do you do in that half hour, right? Could be 3 minutes where you do a breathing technique. We're going to work on some body. Anybody familiar with box breathing? Only 3-4 people familiar with box breathing, and almost 100% of people having anxiety, right? That's a big difference, right? So that just tells me one thing. One, we're not probably spending our time on the internet, looking up how to help our anxiety in ways that are, we'll say, natural or free-flowing, we'll call it, with exercise, mindfulness. Anybody in here meditate? A couple, right? 100% of the room has anxiety, only 3 people meditate. And now, I joke because I'm going to point to the screen more often than not. I didn't start meditating until 2021 because I was forced to stay in an apartment by agoraphobia and not be able to leave. So I was like, I better figure this out soon or I'm never leaving. Meditation feels weird. Feels weird to go inside. Feels weird to start looking inside, feeling inside, and then start seeing what we'll call demons. Anxiety. Anxiety's going to visit you when you're trying to meditate. ADHD, anybody? Here we go, right? And the first thing we'll talk about is, I can't meditate, I have ADHD. No, traditional meditation may be difficult. But I'm going to encourage you right now to do a little bit of a breathing exercise with me. If you feel inclined, let's close our eyes. Well, first check to make sure you have your wallet so no one... We're going to close our eyes and take 3 deep breaths. The first deep breath, hold at the top, and release. On this one, breathe it in, and as we release, feel the tension leave your shoulders, and release. This is going to be our biggest breath. Breathe in, hold at the top. I know it feels uncomfortable, and release. Open your eyes. That was 15, 20 seconds. Do you feel different? Do you feel a little bit of a difference? I was waiting for a room full of people to say no. This guy's been watching the wrong YouTube videos. But that's how, I don't want to say that's how easy it is, but I want you to recognize how you felt beforehand. I know I'm up here trying to charm, and I'm trying to entertain, and trying to be that person. But remember, on that 30-minute lunch break, if you set the intention to breathe, if you set the intention to disassociate in a way that connects you, maybe disassociate from work and the stresses of work, perfectly fine, because that's your time. Paid your time. You just recognized that in 15 seconds you could change, at least for a brief moment. It's not a miracle worker because we have to continue with that mindset. We have to continue moving forward that way. And the more you do that, you can do that throughout work. I'm going to share a little secret that I think people in here know and probably do. You know when that one person has to use the bathroom and they're a difficult change, they're a difficult bathroom, right? And all of a sudden you have to go to the bathroom and you're like, it's almost time, I better use the bathroom before. And then somebody else takes that person and you think you're getting away with it. I was that person. Sorry. That was me and I know you knew it. But I'm coming clean. This is more of a conscious clearing thing for myself. Thank you for allowing my time. I'll see you guys later. During those, we'll call the bathroom breaks, right? You can take those minutes, those 2 minutes, to breathe, to reconnect. What I'm trying to get to is start looking inwards and connecting with yourself. Anxiety isn't just popping up out of nowhere. Your tank is overflowing, right? And even on days you feel good, what is happening with your anxiety is it's just not active. Doesn't mean if you had a pot full of stuff, a big bowl of chili, it's sitting there completely filled. And every time you move, it starts spilling over. Well, when you have an anxiety attack or a panic attack, you spill the entire chili. If any Office fans in here, it's Kevin's bowl of chili. And when that happens, there's no coming back. No breathing is going to help you in that exact moment. There are magic pills, but I'm not condoning. But when you have those moments of anxiety and those things, it's because you're already at capacity. So what we're trying to do is come back a little bit. Little by little, day by day, week by week, hour by hour, minute by minute. I have no more measures of time that I can say to you because you're all staring at me and I can't think that fast. But when we do that, that can be through meditation, that can be through mindfulness, that can be through yoga, through exercise. Back to the ADHD, the walking meditations. You get to go home, you get to go for lunch when the weather finally gets better. Walking meditation isn't the om while you're walking with your eyes closed, walking into trees. What it is you are nowhere else but walking. You're right here, me, I'm actively meditating. I'm nowhere else but here talking to you. You're all actively meditating. Well, most of you are actively meditating because some of you are listening to me. Right? But you're nowhere else. The key there is being intentional with it. Knowing that's what you're doing. Because the mind's going to start running. Right? If I ask you to don't think about a pink elephant, everyone here is thinking about a pink elephant. Or how not to think about a pink elephant, making you think about that. Allow yourself, anxiety is the pink elephant. Allow anxiety to be there and don't judge it. When you're feeling anxious, right? This is the analogy I use and helps my mind. Invite it in on the couch. Let it sit down. Ask it what it has to say. Anxiety is trying to help you. Anxiety isn't the bully trying to beat you up. Anxiety is the friend that's maybe overstaying his welcome. Kind of getting a little pushy, probably taking drinks and snacks without asking. But it's trying to help you in the long run. It's trying to tell you, hey, you're overworked. Hey, you're not taking enough time for yourself. Remember those hobbies you loved 4, 5, 10 years ago? We'd love to do them again. They really made us happy. That's anxiety. It's trying to be like, hey, friendo, remember me? Play with me. Invite it in, listen. And when it starts overstaying its welcome, just say, hey, get back to life. The door's right there, you're allowed to go. But the thing about anxiety is we try to fight it. We try to make enemies with it. And that could be TV, that can be everything. Putting this big label on anxiety is it's this big bad wolf. It is, because we allow it to be. Well, what if we allow it to be our friends? What if we allow it to help us out a little bit? Things that help me with that. 30 minutes of movement, 4 to 5 times a week. Yep, no, I'm not going to be on the cover of Men's Health magazine, unless anybody's hiring. But what it's going to do is condition your mind that you take care of you. You set 30 minutes of time, 30 minutes a day for yourself. And now, that doesn't mean running 15 miles. That doesn't mean going to do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups. Some of us cannot do that. But some of us can go walk for 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. Maybe do some seated exercises, all of those things. Wherever your capacity is, remove the judgment. Because your 5 minutes today turns into 20 minutes in 3 months. What you're teaching yourself is you don't give up on you. So when anxiety comes knocking, you have a hat that you've been putting up and saying, I do this no matter what. I've proven to you that I'm bigger than you. You're not the bad guy. You're just trying to let me know, hey, I need to get out. I need to do the things that make me feel better, make me feel happier. So exercise, movement. I'm up to 30 minutes a day. Didn't start there. Meditation / mindfulness. If you're not into the meditation because it feels foreign and weird to you, that's totally okay. It's not for you. It's like the debate between religion and spirituality. Whatever gets you to happiness, love, joy, and empathy, that's on you. So if you want to call it mindfulness, you want to call it meditation, you want to call it stillness, whatever it might be, whatever gets you there to the present moment, call it that. And what that looks like, I'm going to use an analogy. And maybe you've heard this analogy. I'm a fan of Zen Buddhism, and I'm an Alan Watts fan. In a pond full of fish, be the pond, right? The fish are the thoughts. The fish are and this pond is full of thoughts. If you're anything like me, especially at around 9:30, 10 o'clock, these fish are jumping. And all I want to do is think of every fish, what bills I have to pay, what I have to do tomorrow. Oh my gosh, I have a 2-hour speech tomorrow in front of a bunch of people I don't think I know, and they're going to judge me talking about anxiety while I'm anxious talking about anxiety. All of these thoughts, right? But what happens with that is I become the pond. Yeah, I'm allowed to be anxious. Yeah, I'm allowed to have these thoughts. They're just thoughts. What's happening is my emotions and my feelings are connecting to those thoughts. And that's, have I been not talking into this the whole time? Remember that ADHD we were talking about? When you start connecting emotions and feelings to those thoughts, that's when you start running away. And that's okay. You might be running away right now. It's okay, come back, be the pond. Allow yourself to be the pond. Watch the thoughts. I often will think of it as well as like a Broadway show. Anxiety, thoughts, intrusive thoughts, ADHD, autism, all of these things. It's a Broadway show. And we often forget we're the spectator of that show. We're not those thoughts. We're not the thoughts of, I didn't do enough today. I don't have enough money to pay my bills. No, that is a very real one, but I digress. What we are doing is connecting feelings, thoughts, and emotions to those things. So just be the pond and watch. Do your best to be the pond and watch that happen. Also, big for me, therapy. I know that can be a very foreign word to a lot of people. My mother is here and she talks about the generation and age gap, right? Some places and some age groups, therapy wasn't it. You're weak. You can't go to therapy. What am I going to do, talk about my feelings? Now I do it professionally, right? Therapy changed my entire life because it gave me a place to feel safe to talk about things. Specifically for me, it was a thing called somatic experiencing, which is like energy in the body, which I'm not going to push onto anybody, but it worked for me. But anyway, therapy, a place to talk. I'm a mental health coach. I provide space for people to talk about that stuff. No one's trying to fix you, except you. What we're trying to do is help empower you to find your blueprint, to be the best version of you. Because right now, there's a version of you that I'm sure you look out and be like, I wish I was that. I wish I was making this, doing this, being there. I wish I was all of these things. Well, you can do all those things, right? But the problem is, we don't have a place to talk about it. We don't have a place to design it. The people we're surrounding ourselves with, probably complaining about a lot of stuff, probably focusing on the lack and the fear, the things we do not have, the things that we will never have because of this circumstance, that circumstance. It starts here. It changes with your mind. Now, I want to show of hands who's kind of stuck in the mindset of lack. It's not going to be okay. And it's okay. And for those who just feel like, I don't want anybody to know I'm feeling lackful here, that to be able to admit that to yourself, it's the first step, right? Other people who aren't thinking or feeling that way, they're not better. It's just where you're at in your journey. Like I said, 2 years ago, I was bunkered down in an apartment in Boynton Beach, Florida, living on a lake that I couldn't even get outside to see. Just where you're at in your journey. But are you willing to start changing that? And that's going to be challenging the thoughts. That's going to be creating new thought and behavioral patterns. And most importantly, it's going to be believing in yourself and being consistent. It's not easy because we all hit this thing, right? It's like having a new idea, starting a new business, or starting a new thing at work. There's a lot of motivation right in the beginning. Man, are you amped up to do this? Man, change is fun. I can't wait to be this best version of myself. And then it gets hard. And you go, I'm good. It is much easier to feel like this all of the time. I'm going to let you know what the nervous system and the mind does. It's going to choose comfort every time. So when things get hard and things get difficult, the mind's going to go, yeah, that doesn't feel good, but I know what I'm getting from that. I know that if I do this, this happens. And the mind goes, yeah, I'm good with that. Man, could you imagine if we got better, how much hard work that? I don't know what that looks like. The mind will always choose comfort before it will choose change. So when you get to that moment, maybe some of you are there now, where you're like, this has to go differently. I want everyone also to feel inclined, if you are sleepy, whatever, if you're feeling, you're allowed to stand up, we're allowed to get moving and stuff like that. I want to allow people. I'm not pointing you out, don't worry about it. Just go ahead, just right out the door, there you go, that's what I'm talking about. That's so funny. You just made me think of it. Once again, I have squirrel's attention. What were we talking about? Change is difficult. I want someone to give me, if we have any brave volunteers, a thought pattern that you've been challenging yourself with recently. So something that has been constantly on your mind. Maybe it's, I'm tired, I can't do this, I don't want to go through this anymore. Anything, does anybody have a thought pattern that you recognize that is just on auto loop?
I'm exhausted.
Exhausted.
Yeah, it's constant.
I can't do this, or it's hard to do this.
It's hard to do this. Is this related to work?
It can be everywhere.
Everything? No,
Honestly, it's in every aspect.
absolutely.
Am I doing enough?
That's a big one. I got chills as soon as you said that. I feel that to the core of me. Anybody else?
Yeah, never let your guard down. As soon as you trust, wham.
Man, no, and these are all true. Remember, there's nothing wrong here. This is your personal experience. And remember, this is living from a place of survival right now. It's in survival mode. Especially when you're exhausted, wondering, am I doing enough? Never putting your guard down. You're living from a place of survival. And now I'll ask those same people, is there anything you're doing to help yourself with that? And I want to say, if no is the answer, that is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not going to be like, oh, no, that's why. I had a conversation with one of my clients, and what we said was, if you were trying to start, say, an online business on social media, would you post 1 time a week, 2 times a week to let people know what you're doing? Probably not, right? You'd probably post once every day, but then you'd have to spend time planning your posts, doing all the stuff, right, being in it. So if we're trying to create change, but we're just dedicating 1 or 2 10-second moments, I know it's not that, but 10-second moments each week, we're not going to see that change. We're not creating a new pattern. We're not creating a new way of thinking. What we're doing is hoping. We're hoping that if I say these things by the grace of whoever, whatever is out there, it's going to change. And I know you don't need me to tell you this, but like, it's you. It's us. Me included. I can't tell you how many times I quit on this journey. I quit hundreds of times. Tens of times every day. I'm not good enough. I told you the reason I came to Altec was I wanted to help people. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how that felt. I thought that you had to go, get a job, and then go through all of the things you're going through, and then I said, wow, I don't know if I really want to help people. Then I left, and I sold out for money. Ugh. I know a lot of people in here like, I wish I could sell out for money. I can tell you one thing, if your purpose is to help people give it back, the solution is not going to be found in money. That makes some things a little bit easier. But I never had more money and been more miserable in my life. I never met worse people in my life. I went through the worst relationship of my life for 5 years because of selling out for money. Now, obviously, there's a little accountability along that path as well. That was probably my fault. But I want you to know that your root purpose, if you share with me, is helping people, and you're compassionate, you're being there. That you might get tempted to go away and do different things and try to run, try to quit. Like I said, I did it, I know. I know what it feels like to come home from the end of the day or be at work and say, I feel guilty for not caring. And you get a front row seat into other people's lives and what they're going through. It makes you feel insignificant. It makes you feel, I don't know, lack of better words, like a piece of shit. As far as I can go. I'm looking over to my left. I'm on borrowed time right now. She was like, one more. I told you nothing. You're in a church. But remember, you've been taught about the money thing. You've been taught, would you trade money to get to the end and then say, man, I wish I would have did it differently. I wish I would have helped people. I wish I would have made a difference. My whole goal is to be a positive ripple. I went through my Superman phase, and that was probably when I was sitting in those chairs. If I want to help them all and I'm the only person that can do it, I'm the best, right? Gene will tell you I was not. Man, he had a good heart, but he didn't use it the right way. Right? So I ask you, as I talked to Jean a little bit before, and she kind of inspired me to think of how I wanted to say this. If you were an artist, how would you help paint your masterpiece at Altec? Because I'm sure, especially with change happening and everything like that, it's kind of feeling more structured, feeling like you have to do it this way, things are done this way now, all of this stuff. And somewhere along the way, you lost you and what made you the best you to help these people. Me, I did it. I went, I don't know what to do. I'm trying to avoid taking people to the bathroom. We laughed. They needed help going to the bathroom, and I was avoiding it. Right? Okay, we're not calling people out. I don't want to be responsible for that. We already talked about the airplanes. We're not throwing shots at people. Michelle. Ben. It's me. I'm talking to me, Michelle. I get it. But I want to encourage you through all of this, with the anxiety, the getting help, the finding your best self. And when we do our next activity here, when we come back from our break, we still got about 15 minutes, don't worry about it. We're going to do an activity of how to build our best self blueprint. But I want to encourage you to be your artist. I want to encourage you that when you're having these days of I don't want to do it anymore and stuff like that, remember it's okay to feel that way. You all can relate to each other in that way. You're not alone. I'm going to challenge you to understand this too. The people that are above you understand that too. At least most of them. Right? The ones that have been there. The ones that have been waking up and going to Altec with you. They understand. You may have not seen them when they were in the trenches and when they were doing all this stuff, but I promise you, they understand too. And they were artists in their own right, just like you are. So as you're doing these things, I want you to take a moment just to reflect. You don't have to write anything down right now. How could you be the better version of you as a caregiver, as a helper? And I want you to know an answer that's okay. Take better care of myself. When I go home, I don't know. I know 5-7 days a week of eating a healthy dinner sounds a lot, but maybe what if it's like 1 or 2 times a week? Tuesday, Thursday. I get to celebrate me by making something healthy. Because I promise you, I'm making a lot of promises. Hope I'm able to. Yeah. Fun fact, I'm not showing up tomorrow, so they don't work. If you start taking better care of yourself, you'll be a better caregiver. You'll be better you. You'll be able to do whatever you want to do. I know that. Because I'm having a moment right now. I am here, talking to you, because I took care of myself. I never in my wildest dreams thought I would do this. Do you know how I'd be on the floor, passed out, and Cindy would probably call an ambulance, is where I was, because I'd be having a full-blown panic attack. And now I'm here because I took care of myself. I lost people along the way because I'm sure you heard the quote, and if you haven't, I'm going to enlighten you. You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And this might be challenging to think because who I spend with at work, who I spend with at home, I don't know, they're kind of negative. I don't know. When I get home, it doesn't feel good. I don't get a free space to talk about my stuff, and I feel shut out. I feel all of these things. You gotta start limiting your energy exchange with those people. It's hard. A lot of us are stuck in our patterns, stuck in our ways. Some of us have to hear that family members, you don't owe it to your family members to give them all of your energy and show up as the version of yourself they want. Right? That's hard. You have to start learning who I am. Who do I want to show up with? And that starts with the content you consume. Because I know we're living in a social media world. Trust me, I create enough content to prove it. What content you consume, who you hang out with. Bye, Jean. I promise you can go. I'm only going to call out Jean one. I'm sorry. I lied there.
It's okay with you.
Check back in with me in a couple minutes. But I think that's the big part, is understanding is finding who our authentic self is, the best caregiver we are, the best version of ourselves. That's hard. It ain't easy. One of my favorite sayings when I coach is, when it's easy, it's easy. When it's hard, it's supposed to be hard. Don't quit when it's hard. Because you're gonna get through it. It's gonna be easier. But I don't like to look at everything as an obstacle, but if you're trying to get to a goal, or whatever it might be, and you just stopped every time it got hard, you're never gonna achieve it. So that's how I look at anxiety, right? I know I'm talking to a room full of people who understand what anxiety is. And now my squirrel brain wants to run, and I want to bring up this point. Every one of your anxieties is different. My anxiety is different than yours. My limbs go numb. My heart feels like it's going to pound out of my chest. I get disassociated. Derealization kicks in really hard. I feel like I know where I am. I'm in my room, but it's not my room, right? Anxiety, I start rambling, all of the things. But if I was to talk to somebody else, like, yeah, I kind of get that. But this is what anxiety looks like for me. I'm going to give you another Zen Buddhism analogy here. The word clap and the sound a clap makes are 2 different things. One describes the other, but only one thing is a clap. So remember, when you're in anxiety, you're not the diagnosis of anxiety or anxious. You're experiencing and feeling anxious. Just like, this is a hard one, depression. You're not depressed. You're feeling depressive. When we start identifying as I am anxious, I am depressed, I am sad, I am angry, I am. Our subconscious mind is listening. And it goes, oh, okay. We're anxious. That's what we are. That's what we're going to be. That's who we always are going to be. I had this fun little run where I felt like I was the funniest person in the room because I was the most self-deprecating person. I'm going to make fun of me before you make fun of me. And not only am I going to do it, I'm going to be better at it. Because, baby, I know me. Over years, I believed it. I was a dumbass. That one was for you. No more, I promise. I was stupid. I was a jerk. I was an idiot. I was all of these things. Now, if you ask me, I didn't think that. But I acted that way. And I would ask, you've heard a lot of people say a lot of good things, but you watch their actions. Well, I acted like an idiot. I acted like a... Gotcha. I acted like a jerk. I acted like those things. Even if you asked me and I said I wasn't. So I'm going to ask you here, do you talk to yourself kindly? No? Remember, it's okay. I'm not judging anybody. I'm so happy I chose that name. I'm just somebody like you. I know what it's like. If I can give you the one thing that started everything, I talked about therapy, I talked about meditation, I talked about all of it. It started with how I talked to myself. I had this one thought, peak panic attack in my apartment down in Florida, standing right outside my washer and dryer, a dimly lit hallway, both lights were off, bathroom, bedroom. Vivid in my memory, but sunny outside. What if every thought I ever had came true? Yeah, right? That's a powerful one. What if there's a bit of truth there? What if every thought you have starts creating the reality you live? What would you start to do? Start to be conscious of the things you're thinking? Make me more anxious? That happens. And that's okay, right? No, what happened, I'm a catastrophic thinker. Every time my mom, my dad, somebody left the house, something catastrophic was going to happen. Every time I left the house, something catastrophic was going to happen. Every time I got on a plane, all of the stuff. I can go on for years talking about that. And I realized, just as much as they felt like second nature thoughts, I have the power to change them, because they're patterns. I don't interrupt them. I go right along with them. I let them tell me that story. That Broadway show we were talking about, boy, was I a great viewer. I was an audience that got carried away, swept away every time. Well, what happened was I started talking to myself differently, which means I started thinking to myself differently, which means my patterns drastically changed. In a week, no. But I can tell you after 3-6 months, I wasn't calling myself those things anymore, and I was like, I'm not funny anymore. Now, I know you'd all disagree with that. But I wasn't making the self-deprecating humor anymore. I didn't know who I was anymore, because I was changing the way I was thinking. I was doing things completely differently. Now, show of hands, do you think you can change your thoughts? Or are you just caught in the patterns? Do you think you can change? Awesome. You're in a better place than I was. Example. Because I see some people looking at me like, what the freak are you talking about? Do you think this is the first time I ever imagined myself helping people through mental health, anxiety, compassion, all of that stuff? I've dreamed about this. I've laid up at night imagining what it would feel like to talk to every one of you. I didn't know your names, I didn't know your faces, I didn't know it would be with Altec. But I went to visit Altec after years of spending a lot of time in an apartment, wishing I could do this. And I was like, I finally had the courage and the bravery, and Cindy doesn't know this, my social anxiety, my panic disorder, I walked into Altec and it was a struggle for me. I couldn't breathe. But we talked. And I told her what I do and what I've been working on, everything Zoom. I dreamed of this moment, and then an opportunity presented itself because I matched the emotion of what I would be doing here today. I'm not on the floor having a panic attack. I very easily could have thought and imagined what that felt like. And I did for years. And I got those outcomes. Going to dinners, going to concerts, going whatever, and having to leave because I was having a panic attack. But this moment is only because I imagined what it felt like to stand, what shoes I was wearing, what kind of shirt I was wearing, the energy that the room felt, and by no coincidence was it with Altec, because I wanted it, in my mind, I said I wanted to be comfortable, I wanted to be familiar, I wanted to be lighthearted. Talking about mental health feels like the same old, like, oh God, we're gonna talk about anxiety. No, I want it to be fun, I want it to be easy. Some of you be like, this is not fun. You got us right after lunch and we want to all go to sleep on our, what should be a day off, right? I know you're gonna say I'm not. But what I'm saying is, if you can imagine the outcome and what it feels like, and the more time you spend on imagining, feeling, and tapping into that emotion, your outcome will come. Don't get caught up in those details. The details will present themselves, and you will then make decisions, educated decisions, because you know that this feeling is associated with that. You might get some wrong along the way. Lord knows I have. But if we're not thinking about what it feels like, and imagine what it feels like to have the things that we want on side 2 of that paper, or exercise 2, we're going to stay in 1. And now we're going to break for a little bit. That's weird for me to tell you guys. We're going to break for a little bit, and then when we come back, we're going to kind of try to create a blueprint. And this is the first year if I had any slides, I would have put this one there. This year, I made a vision board for the first time, because I thought they were BS. Right? I thought they were just like, oh my God, okay. That's another way for someone to make money. I've done more in 1.5 months because of a vision board, the intention of my vision board, than I've done in 5 years. Than I've done in 5 years. And the one word I have on there is believe. Now, I don't watch Ted Lasso, but I've heard that is a pretty popular word for Ted Lasso. The hardest thing I ever had to do was believe in myself. It's hard. I can bullshit you all day and make you think that I think I can do it all. I didn't believe it, ever. I was told, you're wonderful, you're charismatic, we can connect with you, you're such a helper, you're compassionate, all those things. I didn't believe a word of it. Does anyone else feel that way? You're told all these things, but you don't believe it? Yeah, it's really hard, right? It's really hard to hear all these nice things about it, and you want to go, bullshit, 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 right? So when are we going to start believing that this version of yourself, these words that you've designed, and they can change over time. You're like, hey, I'm uneventful now. Well, now I want to be blissful. Now I want to be content. I want to be peace. I want to be all of these things. When are we going to start believing that we can be those things? That we actually have the power to change from being doubtful of ourselves. I can't even remember the other words I would have called myself because I don't call them myself anymore. Right? Once again, well done, you. You did it. So we have peaceful, blissful, all of those things. Happiness, that's when I have to do it the most. It's just, I'm on E. But it's like being on empty and passing a gas station and being like, I don't feel like going. It's like, you had the gas. It was right there. And I think that's something also to remember is just because you don't feel like doing the things, sometimes we start doing it. This wonderful lady right here she saw something and it sticks with me all the time. It's show up for 5 minutes. Just show up for 5 minutes and do the thing. If you want to stop doing it after 5 minutes, stop doing it. It's okay. Remove that guilt. Remove that self-expectation. It probably isn't even your expectation. It's probably the expectation of society, a social media influencer, the news, or whatever it might be. Remove the self-judgment and just show up for 5 minutes, because I can't tell you how many times I didn't want to work out. I didn't want to move. I was like, fine, 5 minutes. Just put the shorts on, put the socks on, let's go. 5 minutes goes by, I'm like, I don't feel like I did 10 minutes ago. I've had more of my best workouts when I didn't want to show up. And it just let me know I had to. Aiden.
We're just going off what you said, like a lot of times with like that and like other things, the hardest part, at least for me, is just like taking that step and doing it. When you're actually doing it, it's better. Actually like taking that step and going, you know what I mean?
Yeah, oftentimes it's just taking the first step. They talk like in a world of hacks, right? And we're gonna hack this, we're gonna motivational positivity hack, mental health hack this. One of the hacks is like they talk about like lay out your gym clothes. When you get home from work, no matter, this is something you can do if you choose, no matter how bad you don't want to work out, or I like to call it just movement. You don't want to get your movement in, put your shorts on. Put your shoes on. And then if you want to go sit on the couch, whatever. Get in the habit of getting changed when you get home from work. It's the first step. Because once you put, that's showing up. Like we think like showing up is like, all right, when we're stretching, when we're getting the run in. No, showing up is committing to it. Bless you. Is committing to it. So if one of your goals after this talk is to move a little bit or create a little bit of healthier practices or boundaries with yourself and your mindset, just commit to it. And then when it's hard, something I tell myself, it's hard because I need to be doing it today. And then when you don't, give yourself grace. Because who's going to want to show up to a bully the next time? Well, last time I didn't show up. I got made fun of. I got guilted into not doing it. Why would I want to show up again? No, I'm my own arena. Like I want to curate an environment in which I want to show up to. And I want to show up to a place where I'm invited to show up as me, where I'm at. Just like if I was to come up here and talk to you from a place of hierarchy and all of this stuff, like I'm not meeting you where you're at. There's no understanding there. I want to meet me where I'm at. I'm designing the version of myself that I want to be, and I envision, and I connect, and I emotionally attach to that. But I have the grace to meet myself where I'm at, and that's what I hope we're able to do after this, because the self-judgment, the self-talk, all of that stuff is playing such a detrimental role in where you're trying to get to. All right, we got 10 minutes or so here for any Q&A, if there's any questions. I'm going to open up the floor. I answered everybody's questions without any of them. That's awesome. Man, you could have just told me I'm good at what I do.
I have a suggestion.
Ooh, suggestions, love it.
I always start with gratitude list before doing anything, so that usually kind of helps a little bit too.
I love it. How do you start your give me an example, like the first thing you would write down is a gratitude.
I won't even try to say it out loud to make the meeting work, but I'll just say like, I'm thanking God for, being awake today and having a good morning, it's being sunny out, just something small like that, and then depending, I start with 3, and I hope to 10 a day, so it's usually, but it helps, but it's just something that's a suggestion.
That's huge.
I'm optimistic, positive.
That's unbelievable.
I notice the more specific you are for things you're grateful for, even like the greater, higher feeling you get from it, instead of just saying like, whatever, I'm grateful for something, I'm grateful for breathing. You could literally be like, I'm grateful for my 2 legs and my 2 arms that are able to feed myself every day, or something super duper specific.
That's awesome. Both of those are fantastic because gratitude is literally, we're not going to get into the whole energy of things, right? Because that can be a rabbit hole. But if everything is a frequency, right? And we want to tune into a radio station that is playing the music we want to listen to, we want to be specific with what we want to listen to. Just like what we want to attract. Well, I'm grateful for the things I'm already attracting. What are those specific things? I'm grateful that I get to sit here and speak to 40 to 45 people at a place that I used to work at and understand the daily struggles that they go through. And I get the opportunity to help with maybe a minuscule part of their lives, but who knows who they're going to help based off a conversation like this. I'm so grateful for that. That's specific, right? That's gratitude. I think that is huge. Thank you so much for both sharing that. Anything else? Any other questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions?
It was very good, thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. The pleasure is all
Are you
mine.
going to conquer your fear of Boynton Beach?
Oh, that's a question.
You brought that up 4 or 5 times. What's your case?
So he asked if I will conquer my fear of Boynton Beach, and it's as if he already knows who I am. I have not been back since I moved back.
You don't need.
I Boynton Beach, right between West Palm and Delray.
Yeah.
Bless you, bless you. That's a wonderful question, and I am planning on going back to Florida. I like the Gulf Coast a little bit better, but I think for anyone experience or have experience with exposure therapy. So exposure therapy is essentially just exposing yourself to the thing that brings you anxiety, brings you panic, and it can be called flooded or gradual. I think that would be very good for my anxiety. So I actually really, you were meant to ask that question, so thank you.
My parents lived in West Palm, so.
I appreciate that, because now you've given me something to think about.
You're able to talk about it now, but was there a point where you couldn't, like, the thought of that place shut you down?
I was in that place when it was shutting me down, and my healing journey really, I don't want to say started there, but I started getting better there.
Okay.
So I've been able to, how this all started was I started documenting, I saw it was like a Joe Rogan thing or something like that. It was like, document your success story. Imagine this is your success story. Your lowest point right now is the beginning of your success story. And I took it quite literal. And I said, I know I'm not the only person that feels this way. So I created a TikTok account because I was a 33-year-old male who needed apparently a secretive TikTok account which no one knew he existed. And in that place, he could be freely himself to learn about things that Instagram wouldn't get, all of those things. And I started creating content about my panic disorder, I had a journey with my spirituality and my beliefs and stuff like that, and I connected with some things. And so I started documenting from Boynton Beach. So there was a time in which I wasn't talking about it because I didn't know I had to. But I reached a breaking point in which it was get better or don't. And I know some of us get to that point. And without getting too, not ending on a bad note, but like if you are at that point, please reach out for help. Please reach out to someone, because I promise you, even though feeling alone feels alone and no one else understands the specifics of what you're going through, we know what it feels like to feel alone. Now, we don't know specifically what you're going through, but we're not alone together. We're not alone together. Sorry. Sometimes I just talk. So anything else as we wrap up here?
Thank you.
See you all next time.